I'm going to bring the thumbnail and the color scheme just into the middle for a second. Just out of sight, basically, so I can keep them in, but I'm not going to lose them in this crop. So, with the thumbnail in mind, I'm just going to kind of tidy up the composition a bit. Going to leave a little bit more of a space over here. Press enter. And I'm going to bring the thumbnail out again so I can compare it. So I think about this amount of space over here is a little too much for this painting, so I think I'm going to leave it how it is. I'm going to leave it cropped like this. So, moving this to one side. And you know what, we don't need the color scheme anymore, so I'm just going to delete that. I'm going to start working on the backgrounds. So, when you're making changes against a flat color like this, you do not want to do it on the background layer. You want to make a new layer for it. So we're going to do that. I'm just going to find myself like a really soft but still textured brush. Alright, I'm going to use this one. I'm just going to start very carefully creating a mottled highlight around the character. Very free hands, very soft. Use different pressures of the pen. And I want the focus to be around the face, so using the exact same brush but on the eraser, I'm just going to start tidying it in a bit around the bottom. Okay, there we go. And I think you can see, but I've kind of shadowed off the sides, so I'm going to do that as well, but not with the same brush. I'm going to use a gradient effect. This setting here, I'm just dragging it. I'm going to drag it quite far, so it's not too crisp, and then on the other side as well. So all of this just kind of brings the emphasis towards the character. If you want, you can use the shift just to make sure that line is straight when you're creating the gradient. Okay, there we go. So, making the thumbnail invisible for now. Okay, so here's our painting cleaned up, given a slightly more appealing composition, very basic backgrounds, and that's all you really need if you're just focusing on the character and the character's painting itself. If you're going to work on the backgrounds, then at least you can do that, knowing that the character's finished, and you can put whatever behind her, so long as it, works with the color scheme. So there we go. Okay, so a few further tweaks that we could do is by creating a new layer and setting it to clipping mask. I can start by showing you a few other ways that you can edit your color and make little effects and things like that to make your work more appealing. So what I'm going to do is fill the painting in with maybe like dusty pink like this, and these layer settings are a great way for you to just play around with different effects and see if you can change the colors into something that you prefer or looks more dynamic. So just going to jump around between different effects. Overlay, this section in general is kind of good for slightly more subtle effects. I mean, they look pretty harsh right now, but when you drop the opacity down to 0 and then build it up, you can see it's just warming it up and giving it more of a purplish hue. Going to other ones, you can create different effects. You can soften the colors, make them more powdery. Whatever works for you, really. But for this painting, I'm not going to. I'm going to show you a different technique with the adjustments bar. So, playing with the curves, it's the same as levels, just a slightly different graph. You just bring up the highlights and the lowlights and kind of see if you can create something that you prefer. And it's all about little tiny tweaks and adjustments. It's not about, ripping the line way out of proportion and getting something a bit crazy like this. It's just trying to make small changes. And then if you press back, you can see what you've made. And it's darkened it up a little bit and made it a bit more contrasting. And I think I actually prefer it, so I'm going to leave it like this. Other ways is with the vibrance setting, and you can just bring the colors forward. Almost like a saturation, but it's making it a lot more brighter. And this will help if your painting's kind of more muted. You can just kind of enhance it a little bit more. But I think I'm happy with where I am. Saturation the same. I mean, in the case of this painting, maybe I need to bring the colors down a little bit, so maybe this is the way to go with lowering the saturation. Something a little bit more grey. So if you press OK, go back. It blends in a little bit easier with the background if it's got more of a grey covering to it, which I think I prefer, so I'm leaving it like this again. Okay, so there you go. There's just a few different ways you can adjust colors, play with different tonal values and lighting values, and seeing if you prefer anything just by making last-minute alterations to your final layer. Doing paintings like this are great for character development and giving a character a complete real-life kind of feel. This is an important step, whether it's for personal work or for the industry, because it allows both you and further character artists to get a less graphical and more realistic insight into your design. When you pair this kind of work with the rest of the work that we've done so far, such as sketches, turnarounds, silhouettes, and color theories, you have a full and ranged design, so every aspect of your character is understood on a visual level. In our final lesson, we're going to bring everything together and learn the best ways to save and export your work, as well as a summary of everything that we've completed so far.